I just discovered this podcast called 20,000 Hertz. They're a sound design podcast, really cool stuff, really well produced. But they had a 2-part series where they highlighted the sounds of Apple, everything from the Mac startup to ringtones. And they went in on a really deep dive on ringtones.
In our last episode, we explored how Apple uses sound design to give their devices a distinct voice. Instead of futuristic, hyper-digital tones, Apple tends to choose sounds that are tactile and organic. This makes these high-tech devices sound familiar, so people feel more comfortable using them. You can hear this approach in sounds like the note alert for messages, which is a C on a glockenspiel.
Now, I've always known that Apple's really intentional with all the design work that they do, and it's obvious that they also care about the sound, but it was really cool to hear this breakdown. Now, these are 2 ringtones that got on our phones in 2019. Let me play them for you. And before I get into the next part of the podcast where they reveal who made these, I want you to try to guess, okay? So here is the first one called Daybreak. Feel like I need to do some smooth interpretive dance. I'm getting a massage. I love that one. And the other one is called Chalet. Euphoria. Spirits. Feel good. Nature. Okay. I was just saying the first words that came to my head, but okay. Did you take your guess? Do you have a guess? Okay. If I had to guess before I knew this, I probably would have guessed Toi et moi. Let's see who it was.
Usually we design our sounds in-house, but for some special projects like a new suite of ringtones, we like working together with a diverse group of artists to give our users a variety of options to choose from.
In this case, that group of artists included the legendary beatmaker Flying Lotus, also known as Flylo. Here's one of his most popular tracks, called Crust.
We really thought that the atmospheric and cinematic nature of Flylo's music would be a really good fit for our set of ringtones.
At first, I didn't know how to feel. I was like, what? They want me to be a ringtone maker now? What is that all about?
That's Flylo.
The one thing that was in my benefit was that I actually had made ringtones for myself before. So I kind of feel like I knew what was pleasing to hear as a loop over and over and over and over and over again. Something that alerts you but isn't abrasive, something that's musical but isn't cheesy. So just finding that balance of where it's a bit of ambient but also something that cuts through.
Now, this made me think, because I'm an old man, this made me think of the old time port pagers. Anyone that remembers the 2-way pagers, you were the guy if you had one of those. But those were one of the first pager devices that let you make your own ringtones. And it was the first place that I discovered the name Just Blaze as a producer, because his entry point as a producer, a lot of people don't know this, was making custom ringtones for those 2-way pagers. And I had a ton of them. I don't even remember how I got them, but they were passed around. But if you had one of those and you had a bunch of the cool ringtones, you saw the name Just Blaze in there. We've come a long way. Now Flying Lotus is making ringtones. He breaks down the 2 that he made for Apple.
The big difference, I guess, with making the ringtones and my own thing is just a matter of time. Telling your musical story in such a short amount of time to where it feels complete and can loop infinitely. It's like making the perfect loop.
Yeah, to me it gives me this sense of peace and nostalgia.
Yeah, there is a nostalgic element. I think there is some kind of longing in the sound. I wouldn't say it's a sad thing, but there is some kind of memory, like you're listening to an old cassette. It is nice to have these tones that I can associate with people who give me this warm feeling and this nostalgic feeling. You know, if my girl calls me and I hear the Chalet ringtone, it's like, oh, you know, there's something really nice about it.
That nostalgic lo-fi sound also comes through in Flylo's other ringtone, Daybreak. This lo-fi feel is very different from Apple's usual approach.
When we design sounds at Apple, we usually make them very clean sounding, very pristine and natural, and anything that sounds like crackles or whatever, we would remove that. But that's exactly why we chose to work with Flylo, because we wouldn't come up with this ourselves.
Now, what I love about this collaboration is that they went to a professional beat maker, someone of the culture, and it pushed them to do something that they wouldn't normally do. They said they left crackle in there, and it's something that was definitely not Apple, but they kept it in there because they trust Flying Lotus's vision and his artistry. So shout out to Apple, shout out to Flying Lotus. Another memory that this gave me was the ringtone era of rap, also known as the crunk era / snap era. And I think those are both independent of themselves. I'm not saying that snap and crunk music was made for ringtones. They just worked really well for ringtones at the time. But it was kind of annoying, I gotta admit. Old Man Head rant coming. Those early 2000s hip-hop era, snap, ringtone era, my least favorite era in hip-hop of all time. I'm just gonna say that. My least favorite era of hip-hop of all time. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anyone, but it just wasn't for me. When I was in college trying to study and I'm in the library, it's pitch quiet, I'm reading, absorbing, and I hear this. That didn't really work for me. Or say I'm on a date. I'm a young man on a date. I used to date back then, very long time ago. I pick up a lovely lady. She's sitting in my car. And I hear this. Or probably the worst memory I have of the ringtone era when I was a young man working at... I was in a board meeting with some very important higher-ups, some C-level suite folks. I'm chilling in the back. I forget to put my phone on silent, and you hear this. Of course, when your phone goes off when it's not supposed to, of course you can't find it. You're looking for pockets that don't exist. It's getting louder for some reason. Oh man, the whole song played. That's a memory I wish I could forget. But thanks to this story, I'm reminded. So thank you for that. Sometimes people just need to curate stuff for us. Apple has good taste. Apple, I'm letting you curate my whole experience from now on. Okay, don't give us that much customization because we're going to end up doing some dumb shit.